I want to point out here is that when our shout is in agreement, when our shout reaches into the heavenly places where Balaam was talking about, when our shout reaches into the heavenly places and finds ourselves in agreement with the shout of the king that is among them, when the shout of the king and our shout find ourselves in the heavenly places, reaching a place of unison, a place of agreement, where we are shouting together. The shout of the king is meeting, and our shout meets the shout of the king in the realm of the spirit. And there's an agreement in the spirit. We're shouting for the same thing. We're shouting in agreement over the same thing. When that thing reaches the same thing at the same time, that shout of the king is going to bring a response from heaven. And that response from heaven is going to be a release of divine fire, a release of God's power on the earth, a release of God's ability into the earth. That power, that divine power is released. And that word of promise, that thing that God told you that he was going to do, is activated and sent forth at that point of agreement. At the point of agreement where your shout meets the shout of the king that is among you, that then you're in agreement, you're in a unison, and once at that point that word of promise becomes activated and it becomes sent forth at the point of that agreement, and it gets sent forth with a spiritual forward thrust, similar to that of when God said, "Let there be light" at creation. That the word of promise is sent forth with power, with ability, with effectiveness, and will not come back to God void, because it is going to accomplish that thing that God sent forth for it to do. But for that promise to be activated, there needed to be an agreement in the spirit, and that agreement needed to be that everybody was believing the same